asking a question to wake people up to realize that, whoa, okay. So I never did make this decision consciously, and just simply say, like, how old were you when you decided to eat meat? Mm-hmm. Well, I always ate meat. Okay, well, so interesting. So how did you decide, like when did you decide that, cows were food, but like, you would not eat dogs? And like, what are you talking about? My parents taught me. And I'm like, okay, cool. So like, we learn a lot of things from our history. It doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Like our ancestors, saying like people have always done that. Well, people have always done a lot of bad things. Like in the old days, slavery was legal. Not to compare, make a comparison because people go, oh, but the fact is, just because, our ancestors did something doesn't mean it was the best option or it was even a good idea. And just waking people up to realizing that they've been indoctrinated to a certain degree. Now, they may continue to choose to eat meat, but now they've been woken up to this sort of like realization that they can't rationalize. They can't read, dogs are, hunting dogs are man's best friend. Okay, well, how did that happen? How was that decided? How did poor cows not get a shot at that title? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just opening up that conversation and also acknowledging that, I might not be right about everything and hearing their points and saying, you're right. Absolutely. I think, there's certainly ways to eat a healthy diet, eating meat. But I just want to also interject and say that like the myth that you can't be healthy if you're vegan is just that, right? I do believe, there are diets people could have that, have, low quantities of meat or fish, and they'll be fine, right? But the assertion that you can't be strong, healthy, and have all the nutrients on a vegan diet, that's the one I look to dispel. And if we can get there, then we have sort of some common ground. I'm like, listen, I respect the fact that you eat what you eat and you think it's healthy, but just know that eating my diet, I'm not deficient in anything. I'm doing just fine. I'm getting everything that you're getting. Where do you, like the B12 conversation, is a big myth that meat eaters think, well, I get my B12 from eating meat. And well, where do you think the meat gets it? Exactly. From supplements. It's not getting it from the soil, right? So it's just, that's the biggest one. And I think Game Changers, the film, which I actually was an associate producer on as well, did a really good job of sort of dispelling a lot of myths that, being a vegan holds you back from your true potential as an athlete. And I think, you being involved in all the other athletes really sort of like opened up a lot of eyes to people going, whoa, wow, this is impressive.
Yeah, this can happen. Did you notice we talked about, just the endurance and the energy that changed for you at the table, and that's what you were after in the first place. What about your mental clarity and focus? I'm not great at math, so I can't even imagine. I mean, you're memorizing the 52 cards every single time, I'm assuming, and which ones are out and which ones aren't yet. So, I mean, the mind is, obviously the most powerful tool, I'm assuming, to be successful at poker. Did you notice a change upstairs?
I did notice, like, especially after really fine tuning the vegan diet, where I was really getting everything I need, that, as you mentioned, the mental clarity was really, really there. The ability to focus for long periods of time. Also, most importantly, not getting sick. Yeah. Like not feeling lethargic and not feeling tired, because especially when you're playing poker tournaments, we talked about 10, 12 hours. Sometimes these things go 16 to 18 hours, right? If you're exhausted after a big turkey dinner, and then you come back to the table and you got 6 more hours to play and your brain's not working and mine is, that's when the real big money's being played for. And that's when I'm at my most sharp and my most alert, because I am fueled by, things that serve me well.
Yeah. So what are your brain foods? Yeah. I'm going to write them down.
What are my brain foods? I don't even know. Like, I mean, really, like, I wouldn't even say that I have specific food. I just eat the vegan diet that I'm on now, which the only thing that I look to focus on as a vegan, and I think this is something for a lot of new vegans who struggle with this, is like my fiber intake. Because I think a lot of people think like, where to get, vegans, no matter what, like, you're going to get plenty of fiber, and in some cases, way too much. Like, I think a risk of like people who are, switching to vegan diet is they feel this bloat and this gassiness because they're just eating like beans and lentils and broccoli and cauliflower, which are all good, right? But if that is like the brunt of your meal and you're getting sometimes 10 times the amount of fiber you can get, that can cause a lot of uneasiness, in your stomach. So I guess the one thing I focus on is, just monitoring, like getting a reasonable amount of fiber and not too much so that, I feel good while I play.
Well, a lot of new vegans, they will eat a lot of vegetables and their microbiome isn't used to that. So they need to feed that microbiome so that it is adapted to having so many vegetables and fiber, like you said. So can you share with us? You mentioned that you're on a diet now that you is pretty steady, and that you use that same diet for your tournaments. Can you share with us what you're eating and how often and how it goes? I'm sure our listeners would love to be able to learn from that.
Yeah, well, I actually eat really fun food. Like I make it fun. I bought this thing called the Yonanas. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's a product where basically it's just a little machine where you take frozen bananas and you can put any other frozen fruit or whatever you want in it. And then you just stick it through and it's ice cream with nothing else. It is incredible. So like, for a snack, I might have like, banana ice cream with almond butter or something like that. But as far as like staples, I'm like using tofu, seitan. I do some protein shakes occasionally here and there, as well as like, a decent amount of, I use like a green lentil pasta, which is very high in protein. Also, obviously rice is a big, part of my diet as well. Rice, pasta, what else do I eat? Seitan, as I said, and seitan can be made a lot of different ways. There's I feel like I'm promoting all these different companies, but there's another website called GTFO, It's Vegan, and it's like a vegan grocery store. Okay. And they make a whole bunch of like faux meats and stuff like that have pretty good macro profiles, I think. And so sometimes I'll dabble in that. For breakfast this morning, I made pancakes, but I made them with vital wheat gluten and chickpea flour, right? Mm-hmm. So they're just like packed with protein. And, I'll make like, basically those are the staples, right? Beans I eat, of course, but like I don't use beans as a primary protein source. I use like tofu, seitan, or, like a protein powder, but I don't use, because I think that's the mistake a lot of people make, or when they have that gut problem, is they're just like, I got to get my protein. So they just eat this big. I remember watching a video, these two bodybuilders who like, they do this thing where they like try 1 month as a vegan or 1 month on keto. And they did the vegan thing for a month, but they just ate beans. And the guy was like, a week in was like, if I was at the gym right now, they would kick me out because it's not good. Right. So, so I think, a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, of course, and greens. And that's pretty much, and again, I think the biggest obstacle people have sometimes, especially if they're trying to gain muscle, is like, what sources of protein are they looking at? And I think tofu gets a bad rap because there's been like a real bad sort of campaign against this idea that soy is going to make you have boobies. I still got...
You don't have any. I was just going to say it's so impressive. I don't see any man boobs on you at all.
Hey, folks. Okay. Back by very popular demand is our plant-powered plate fridge magnet, which you are going to receive for free if you leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. So here are the details. Just write your quick review. Does not need to be long, does not need to be a whole story. Just be honest and speak from the heart. Then take a quick screenshot of the review you wrote and email it to us at podcast@switchforgood.org. That's podcast@switchforgood.org. And include your mailing address so we can send you a power plate. We are doing this because the more reviews we garner, the higher we go in search results, which means more folks will learn about our podcast. So the power is in your hands. Leave us a review and zoom, your power plate arrives at your doorstep.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. If we helped you in any way, then click the subscribe button and let's keep hanging out together. We have so much more to share with you.
And if you need more information on actually making the switch for good, please visit us at switchforgood.org for loads of info. And you can subscribe to our mailing list where you will receive all sorts of super cool gifts, discount codes to our very fave dairy-free products, and a lifetime of powerful health tips.
So join us on the journey to switch for good. This is the future.